As the Miami Heat hope to reach a championship standard in the 2025-26 season, the team is still looking to round out the roster, heading into training camp and eventually the start of the schedule. With the Heat swirling around in rumors about various moves, one player that remains a mystery is guard Terry Rozier, besides Rozier still being investigated surrounding sports betting. Though the league found no wrongdoing before, the player has also been vastly disappointing for the team after they traded Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick in 2023 for him. Jake Fisher would report on the Stein line that Miami still hopes to part with Rozier. However, the trade market for Rozier is scant, as the team does have some interest in a buyout for the 31-year-old if a trade can't be made, since he makes $26.6 million this upcoming year. Earlier this month, Miami traded Haywood Highsmith to Brooklyn in a move that both got the Heat under the luxury tax and set them up to re-sign Drew Smith on a 3-year deal, Fisher wrote. That might not be the last of the financial maneuvering on South Beach. Sources say Miami still hopes to part with veteran guard Terry Rozier, even though there is said to be scant trade interest in the 31-year-old. Rozier is scheduled to make $26.6 million this season, and the Heat are said to have some interest in buying him out, Fisher continued. To be clear, though, no buyout appears imminent. Last season, Rozier began in the starting lineup, but fell out of it and eventually the rotation as he averaged 10.6 points per game while shooting 39.1% from the field and 29.5% from beyond the arc. A trade involving the Heat's Terry Rozier was discussed. Rumors around the Heat and a Rozier trade made headlines around a month ago when a deal was discussed for a swap with Marcus Smart from the Washington Wizards. Fisher himself would report that, and even say that Miami could not come to an organizational consensus if that was an upgrade. Miami weighed a Rozier for Smart swap, but could not reach an organizational consensus on whether such a trade was a clear upgrade, Fisher wrote. Anthony Chang of the Miami Herald would add on to the report, saying that Miami didn't go through with it because of the draft capital that needed to be involved. Multiple league sources confirmed those trade talks between the Heat and Wizards took place this summer, Chang wrote. While a Rozier for Smart swap would have made sense for the Heat because Smart was on a cheaper expiring contract, $21.6 million salary for this upcoming season before agreeing to a buyout with the Wizards, then Rozier's expiring deal, $26.6 million salary for this upcoming season. A league source indicated the Heat ultimately did not make the trade because of the draft capital it would have needed to attach to Rozier to facilitate such a deal. At any rate, the Heat looked to improve after finishing 37-45, which put them 10th in the Eastern Conference, and while the team made it through the play-in tourney, they would be swept by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Miami starts training camp on September 30th in preparation for the preseason opener on September 4th against the Orlando Magic, and then the start of the regular season is on October 22nd, facing the same team. Coming into the offseason, the Miami Heat were expected to make a strong attempt at landing a superstar. Kevin Durant was seen as the most viable target. Durant ultimately ended up with the Houston Rockets. Miami pivoted by acquiring Norman Powell in a 3-team trade. However, Pat Riley is always on the lookout for ways to improve the Heat's roster. After all, under Riley's leadership, rebuilds aren't a thing. With that in mind, Bleacher Report's Andy Bailey recently proposed a blockbuster 5-team deal that would land Karl-Anthony Towns with Eric Spoelstra's roster. The proposed deal would look like this. New York Knicks get Giannis Antetokounmpo. Milwaukee Bucks get Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, Harrison Barnes, a 2026 first-round pick from New York, via Washington, a 2030 first-round pick from Miami, a 2030 first-round pick swap from New York, a 2032 first-round pick swap from New York, a 2032 first-round pick from Miami, a top 50 protected 2031 second-round pick from Utah, and 3 second-round picks from New York. Miami Heat get Karl-Anthony Towns. San Antonio Spurs get Lauri Markkanen. Utah Jazz get Keldon Johnson, Bobby Portis, Jeremy Sochan, Tyler Kolek, a 2029 first-round pick from San Antonio, and a 2031 first-round pick from San Antonio. There may be a bit of unease over giving up 2 unprotected first-round picks, but this is almost as much of a no-brainer for Miami as it is New York, Bailey wrote. KT is coming off an All-NBA campaign in which he averaged 24.4 points, 12.8 rebounds, and 3.1 assists, while shooting 42% from deep, playing next to a floor-spacing forward/center as good as Towns would go a long way toward maximizing Adebayo's playmaking ability. Towns would instantly become a pillar of the Heat's roster. Between him and Tyler Herro, Riley would have scoped to construct a contender. Heat's failed Kevin Durant offer revealed. Recently, Heat insider Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald revealed Miami's failed trade package for Durant. Jackson noted how Riley's refusal to include Nikola Jovic in a trade package is what killed the deal. Per source with direct knowledge, he was willing to offer Wiggins, Rozier, Highsmith, Jacquez, and 20th pick in June's draft for Durant and Cody Martin, Jackson reported via X. Per Shams, Suns wanted Jacquez, Jovic, Highsmith, 20th pick and a pick swap, as well as Wiggins/Rozier inclusion. So Jovic and Kaspar's J need to work out for justify the decision, which was a difficult one for Heat to reach. Now, Durant will be an anchor for the Houston Rockets' push for a championship. Nevertheless, Miami has kept all of its young talent for a future push to land a superstar. Heat could let Powell leave next summer. In another interesting twist, Powell, who joined the Heat this summer, could walk in free agency in 12 months' time. According to NBC Sports' Kurt Helin, Powell's age could lead the Heat to letting him test the free agency market. He was traded to Miami for the final year of his contract, making $20.5 million, Helin wrote. He is coming off a season where he made a leap in year 10 and averaged 21.8 points a game while shooting 41.8% from beyond the arc. Helin continued. At age 32, the Clippers were hesitant to give Powell the longer extension that he wanted, which helped lead to the trade, but is Miami going to feel any differently? Miami is also trying to keep its books clean to make a big swing at a superstar down the line. While the Heat and Powell may work out an extension, his hitting free agency seems a very real possibility. If the Heat project to have legitimate cap space next summer, letting Powell walk could be a smart move. However, if he impressed this season, it may be more logical for the Heat to keep him around. Time will tell how that situation will ultimately play out. The point guard position has been a long-standing issue for the Miami Heat. Terry Rozier was the latest attempt to find a solution to the primary ball handler role. Unfortunately, that hasn't gone as planned. In a recent article for Bleacher Report, Zach Buckley pinpointed Coby, White of the Chicago Bulls, as someone who could step into a lead guard role for the Heat. Buckley provided a trade idea, too. Heat gets Coby White. Bulls get Nikola Jovic and Simone Fontecchio. The 25-year-old no longer seems cemented into the long-term plans, due in no small part to the fact that unrestricted free agency awaits him after the upcoming season, Buckley wrote. Maybe that motivates the Bulls brass to get something for White now and not risk losing him for nothing later. They could be getting quite a bit here, as Jovic has flashed a really interesting mix of size, 6 feet 10 inches, shot-making and ball handling, and Fontecchio holds obvious bounce-back potential after losing more than 6 points off of his three-point percentage, 33.5, down from 40.1 in 2023 to 24. White has enjoyed back-to-back impressive seasons for the Bulls. Last season, White averaged 20.4 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. He shot 45.3% from the field and 37% from deep. White is heading toward unrestricted free agency. One reason why the Heat would be unlikely to target White via a trade this season is that he's heading toward unrestricted free agency. Miami would need assurances that he would re-sign with the franchise, especially if they're giving up Jovic as part of the deal. Furthermore, there would need to be a level of confidence that White could slot into Eric Spoelstra's roster. After all, you don't want to sign him to a multi-year deal if he's going to struggle the same way Rozier has. However, if White is willing to re-sign with the Heat, and Miami believes he can be a key part of the roster, then a deal could make sense for both parties. Heat previously refused to trade Jovic. Another stumbling block that Buckley's proposal could encounter is the Heat's unwillingness to trade Jovic. A recent report from Heat insider Barry Jackson noted how the Heat refused to include Jovic in a trade package for Kevin Durant. Per source with direct knowledge, He was willing to offer Wiggins, Rozier, Highsmith, Jacquez, and 20th pick in June's draft for Durant and Cody Martin, Jackson reported via X. Per Shams, Suns wanted Jacquez, Jovic, Highsmith, 20th pick and a pick swap, as well as Wiggins/Rozier inclusion. So Jovic and Kaspar's J need to work out for justify the decision, which was a difficult one for Heat to reach. If Pat Riley didn't want to add Jovic into a deal for Durant, it's hard to envision him changing his stance in a move for White. As such, a hypothetical trade offer for White is unlikely to feature Jovic as part of the outgoing package. Clearly, the Heat's front office thinks highly of him. Fortunately for Miami, they have numerous young talents to dangle in a trade. So, if White does become a target for the franchise, they should have enough assets to at least entice the Bulls' front office to the negotiating table.